From the University of Missouri, Kansas City's Bloch School of Management, welcome to The Journey to Leadership, a shared knowledge podcast for those seeking leadership advice from those that have done it or are about to do it. Each week, this podcast spotlights a community champion from the public, private, or not-for-profit sector. We talk individual success, comebacks, and lessons learned. Today's journey profiles Chris Goode, the owner and operator of Ruby Jean's Juiceries in Kansas City, Missouri. Ruby Jean's offers cold-pressed juices, smoothies, vegan gluten-free entrees, and grab-and-go salad and snack options. On July 25th, Ruby Jean celebrates its 5-year anniversary in Kansas City. We'll get an update on how his business has navigated COVID, but first, Journey to Leadership host Gary O'Bannon discussed how, as commissioner on the board of Kansas City Parks and Recreation, Chris is pushing to remove the J.C. Nichols name from the street leading into the Country Club Plaza, as well as the iconic J.C. Nichols Fountain. Here's your host, Gary O'Bannon, executive in residence at the Bloch School.
Chris, welcome back to The Journey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Following the latest killing of yet another African-American male at the hands of police officers, the Kansas City area joined countless other cities to rally for change, not only in the way police departments do their business, but also to eliminate symbols of racism across the nation. One of those calls came here locally to change the name of the J.C. Nichols Fountain and J.C. Nichols Parkway, which is the street most known for being the entryway to our much heralded Country Club Plaza. Now, most know by now that the man behind the name, J.C. Nichols, was a controversial figure who lived from 1880 to 1950. He was a developer of commercial and residential real estate in Kansas City, Missouri, but he was also someone who used restrictive covenants to control the use of lands in neighborhoods that he had developed. So I think we call that a racist. You were appointed as a member of the Kansas City, Missouri's Parks and Recreation Board just this past November, so not quite a year. And you're the voice leading the effort to change the name, which has prompted some other prominent business leaders and groups to also show their support for that. What is the latest on this effort to change the name?
So the latest is I submitted the official memo, so that was step one. Then it went out to public via our park session last Tuesday. So that was step two, put it in front of the Parks Board as a recommendation. We've now put it on our official agenda for the meeting was supposed to be on the 23rd, but we pushed it back to the 30th so that we can have time for 2 public input sessions. At this point, we just want to get public feedback, and we'll never have a consensus on such a controversial topic, but we want to at least be equitable and not do the same thing that we're fighting against. So we want to be equitable to all parties involved, stakeholders, community leaders, residents, whoever feels that they want to weigh in on this topic, we have to hear them out. And then we'll take all of that information, all of the feedback we've gained from emails, social media, and we'll kind of weigh it against what we're going for. And then on June 30th, we'll make an official vote.
And when you say Bruce R. Watkins, you're talking about the Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Heritage Center at 3700 Blue Parkway.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so if you look into your crystal ball, what do you anticipate or want to happen? Because you've actually offered a name, correct? An alternative name.
Right. So I proposed an original idea for the fountain to be named Dream Fountain. The Parkway, it's not a new idea. It's something that's been thrown around a lot. People view it as a way to satisfy the pain that stemmed from the Purcell, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Conversation. Right. To this conversation. So I like that. I think it's a way to flip this concept of hatred and racism on its head, a complete 180, and honor a person that stood for exactly the opposite, for much more, much greater, stood for abundance and wealth and peace, but for all people. So I like the idea, but it's not my personal decision. I can only make those recommendations, and then we'll take that input because we've gotten a ton of different names. Some people love those ideas, and then some people have something totally different in mind. So we just want to be transparent and equitable in that process, hear people out, see what that looks like, see how those sessions go. We've gotten a lot of vocal support. Right now, anytime I've spoken about it, for the most part, the feedback has been positive. Now, it certainly hasn't all been positive, but we want to hear people out and see what they think.
And no change is, right?
Right,
yeah. Right. So does the park board have unilateral authority to change the name, or then does it have to go to the full council?
No, we have authority to change the name. Now, things can always be changed, right? I hope that that's not the case in this instance, but
I don't think it will be.
It is our sole decision to make this name change.
Yeah, if they decide to change the system based on this particular issue, I would think that's going to
be pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty obvious about what the intent is. So, full board support at this point, or are you comfortable saying?
I don't know. Scott Wagner is the only person that's vocally on the public call voiced his support. Everyone else is to be determined.
Interesting. Now, I haven't investigated all of the other symbols and statues that may be around Kansas City, but are there any others that are in the spotlight?
There are a lot.
Dozens, hundreds?
A lot. I would say dozens.
Dozens.
A lot of street names, a couple of statues, some buildings that honor men that did not stand for all people.
So why is this important for the city? I mean, I think in terms of like Monday Night Football, Chiefs have a great team. We're the Super Bowl champions until they wrestle it from us, right? So we're on TV a lot, on national TV. That Plaza Fountain is always one of the iconic shots of Kansas City, Missouri, right? And so if those individuals from across the nation were actually aware of the background history of that, that would be meaningful.
It would be, and I think that's what this is. This sheds light on something that's painful for the people that are aware, and it's time to make that change. And for me, I think it's so important because that hatred, it wasn't created and made into a very effective blueprint and stop here. It was then replicated. It was adopted by the FHA, which is a government agency, and so that practice literally is stamped into the fabric of our entire country. And it's something that is either about it or you completely are remiss on the idea. And for me, if I have even a small voice, a small platform to put something forward that says, this city needs to reflect every single type of person that pays taxes into it, then I have to do that.
Right. Now, you have a young son. Does that, you're already passionate about it, obviously, but does that take your passion to another level because you want to be sure that your son grows up, if he chooses to stay here in Kansas City, in a city that recognizes that these things need to be changed?
It does. I mean, it's a big part of the thought process I have, even as I'm writing that memo and staying up till one in the morning to finish that up. I'm thinking, my son and I, we live pretty close, and so we walk around the path. We'll walk through the plaza, and I know the history very well. And every time we walk through there, I just think about it like, man, this really is not someplace that I'm desired to be. And you look at all the kids, the young black kids that, have been having issues and being pushed from the plaza and all the pushback there over the years. And for me, it's time to say, we can't fix everything. We just can't, right? We can only start that process. And when you take off that symbolism that stands for hatred, take it off of this big banner that we have it on with the most visible spot in our city, I think it's a really, really good step in the right direction.
And you may have already answered this question just based on your responses so far. So for the groups that are out there that say it's wrong to, I won't say deface history, but to try to erase history, what's your message to them?
It's impossible to erase history. There are books there for a reason. Now we have the great pleasure of having the World Wide Web. So Wikipedia will always tell you what that history was. But erasing history and celebrating that history are two totally different things. And so I think that is a very flawed argument, because it's simply about we're not required to celebrate something that is negative, that is steeped in hatred. I believe in Jesus Christ, right? And for me, you can't have idols outside of him. And that's my own personal opinion. I'm never ashamed to say that. And this is a man that money was an idol. Money was an idol. I will do anything to secure the longevity of the almighty dollar above all else. And when you step on your fellow man like that to secure money and your own peace of mind, I think you're playing a very dark game. And at some point, someone has to say, we don't have to stand for that. We all live here.
Now, so you said there's dozens, street names, other monuments, symbols, and things like that. Does the park board have a plan, or the parks department, I guess is where it would come from? Is there going to be like a master plan to change these one step at a time?
It's being discussed. Where do we go from here? I think that we want to focus on this particular situation because it, honestly, above all else, it's the biggest. It's the one that really sets the stage for all others. So if you start to work from the top, then we can get a lot done on our way from there.
So why the park board for Chris Goode? Tell me how that came about.
What I think brought it about is I have a project to redo the entire hillside at Paseo High School. And I don't know if you knew about this, but the Paseo stairs, I'm sure you're familiar with. So
it's our rocky stairs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And this is a site that, as a 14-year-old kid, my dad started taking me to get in shape for football.
Right.
And I hated these stairs. We would drive the whole drive headed to the stairs. I'm like, oh God, and he's
you can
like,
sense the pain.
I can. And he's like yelling at me from the bottom of the stairs, like, timing me. And as an adult, I ventured back to the stairs and I started to use it as a way to stay in shape. And then I started inviting people. Just, hey, I'm doing a workout tomorrow at 8 a.m. on Saturday, and we got it to where we had 60 plus people coming out. And
which probably dropped to 20 at some point, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, some people wouldn't show up, different times, but it was all walks of life. It was all ages, and something hit my heart over the years. It said, man, this is a beautiful site. If this were, and I traveled the country a lot with my job, and I said, if this were in Denver or Nashville or Austin, you wouldn't have a place to park. Why is it that we have this beautiful site in Kansas City and it's just a forgotten about gem that we have? And I always said to myself, when I make it, I'm just going to put some money into it and make it beautiful. And then, you actually get into business and you're like, well, I don't know when making it happens or what that looks like. So I said, well, how can I get this done? And I put it out into, the atmosphere or Facebook, and it got really, really good feedback. And I started just, kind of chipping away at it. We had our first cleanup event. We took out a bunch of honeysuckle and all these weeds and bottles and prescription pills and tires. We found an axe, needles, and our kids are walking up these stairs heading to school. And I felt like on the east side, you don't get the experience of Loose Park or Mill Creek. And I said, well, we need to have something that encourages health, encourages diversity, but it needs to happen on the east side. And this site is a beautiful site. You can almost see the plaza from this site. It sits at this very, very interesting intersection. And I also thought that it could, the people that the Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Paseo argument, I felt like this site could really enhance what we're talking about. So I decided to set out on that goal personally, and then it became known about, and then I had the opportunity to sit on the Parks Board, and I accepted.
Yeah, that was my next question. So how did that ask come about? Did you get a call from Mayor Q?
I did.
Is that how that happened?
I did. He asked me, about my project. He knew about my project. He supports the project. And he said, well, you got a heart for the city, man. What, you ever thought about sitting on a board? And I was on the health commission at the time. And the parks came up, and I don't know a lot about politics, and I'm not really a fan of politics. I like to keep it real and be as genuine as I can be. And so I was like, if I can be me, I'm down. And so that's what I'm doing.
The board is less than a year together. Most were appointed in November, the same time you were. Are you satisfied so far with how the first budget process worked under your first budget and how those dollars are being distributed?
I think it's still up in the air a little bit. I think the coronavirus came right on the heels of that, and so I think things are still being shifted. So that would be a question mark for me at this point.
Has the park board been what you thought it would be when you stepped onto the board? Any surprises?
I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that I wanted to learn up front, because a lot of the people that sit on the board, while they are new to the board, excluding Mr. Mecklenburg, they have been in politics. They've either been on city council or done different things. And so I said, I'll kind of just play the background and learn. And if I feel passionate about something, I'll speak and I'll ask as many questions. And they've been pretty open with the sharing of information and knowledge. But it's been a good experience so far. I feel that when I speak I'm heard. And I don't know if it's my ability to communicate, but I don't feel like I'm just this young guy sitting in a spot and not able to get anything done.
So you're in the health business. You're on the park board, which is into leisure services and healthiness, community centers. Have you had the opportunity to infuse your philosophy at all into the?
Not yet. I've kind of just set back. I never wanted it to be a personal gain thing. My goal was only to make.
Oh, and I'm sorry, and I didn't mean from a personal gain.
Oh, yeah.
I meant since you know so much about healthy lifestyle,
right,
and things
right.
like that, not necessarily.
Well, no, I mean that's my real answer.
Right.
Okay. I wanted it to be more about how does Chris Goode put his passion for health and making a community healthier into the system. And so I've kind of just, the Paseo project that's my first goal. Because I believe in it. I know what can happen when you actually sow into a community and put health as an example. When I was a low-income kid riding in the back of my mom's Tempo, looking up at those very stairs, if I would have saw, a beautiful site where people are working out and engaging and having a good time in fitness, maybe it makes an imprint on who I become at an earlier point. I think it's an image that we need to show our kids, and if they don't see that in their day-to-day life, then it'll take a lot of years for them to realize what being a healthy person looks like. So I think that at the end of the day, our ideals from Ruby Jeans and my personal ideals will bleed into this parks role, because we have a great opportunity to really make this city healthier, and we have to do that.
So you're out in the community a lot. What are you hearing from particularly the younger generations about George Floyd and some of the other most recent? I mean, every week that goes by, a new video pops up, right?
Yeah,
but so what are you hearing from the community?
Just outrage, just exhaustion. In my own personal circles, I've been to different events, and people are just upset. People are sad. People want to know how they can help, what they can do, but the overwhelming theme has been just fury.
If you're ever in a position to be offered the top spot of the Park Board of Commissioners, would you be able to accept it while you're running your business, and would you be interested in it?
I think that's a question that I'll have to kind of come to if it presents itself, because as you said in the intro, we're approaching 5 years in business, and
congratulations.
Whew, thank you. It takes every ounce of me in order for us to get to that 5-year mark. So I'll have to weigh it against what's going on with my family and my son and the business, if that presents itself.
So the first time we talked was back in March. You actually visited the UMKC Bloch School,
Yes,
and I
sir.
appreciate that. And you talked to students, and we talked about leadership. We also gave a lot of background on Ruby Jean's Juicery. So I want to maybe flip gears and then talk about that. How has COVID-19 impacted your business? Because obviously it's been devastating for so many, and so many won't even be able to open the doors back up, obviously.
It's been a grand impact on our business. When it really hit, I don't remember what the date was, but early March, I believe. I was in my Whole Foods location on a Sunday, and I saw our sales start to drop. And then I went on a Monday, and like the first 3 hours, we had not one sale. And I said, uh-oh. So I immediately closed that one. That was the first move I made. I sent my staff home that day. We said we're going to close for the day and make a plan. Then I decided to close our downtown location. And that one was really an easy decision from a closure standpoint because it's a corporate environment. And so if everyone is working from home and we don't even know when they're coming back to work, and that's who our customer is, then we need to put it on ice. Then I reduced our hours on our Truce location and went down to, our entire team was 20 people, most of them part-time, younger employees, and we reduced down to 3 people, and I made myself one of the 3. So for the next 2.5 months, I worked our front counter, had my laptop here, and if a customer came in, I would help them. But our biggest pivot was the half gallons. So we started producing half gallons and gallons of fresh cold pressed juice, not only to fall into what people need from an immune system boost, but also because if you only are going to come out one time a week, you should have it in bulk. So that was a pretty strong pivot for us. It actually, in my opinion, saved our business. Every time we would get a run of jugs in, we'd sell out. And up until 2 weeks ago, we were sold out and couldn't get our jugs in because they were on back order. Luckily, the Rieger family gave us jugs to use as a backup. They had these half-gallon jugs that they were using for hand sanitizer. They had an abundance, and they said, well, we can help you out. So that's the jugs that we're using now. But that was kind of the way we maneuvered through it. And now I'm trying to figure out how we go back. When do we open our Whole Foods location? Because grocery store consumers are still in and out. If I'm going to get groceries, I have a list. I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out. Or people are shopping for them. And we need customers that are coming in more relaxed and say, oh, I want a smoothie today. We need that residual traffic. And I still don't think we're in a climate where we'll get that. So we'll be closed until that feels more normal. Downtown is it's still a question mark in my head. I have no clue. You would think that these big entities that are, I'm sure, getting some sort of relief, in their own right, probably on a very big scale.
From the federal government, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
That they would pass that down. It hasn't been the case for us. So still navigating what we do downtown, and then on Truce we still have limited hours, but we started doing extra pop-ups, different things to try and kind of make that bottom line grow a little bit. But we're starting to see traffic change a little bit at our Truce location. Over the last 2 weeks we've been pretty busy there.
And you mentioned the Rieger family, and you're specifically Andy Rieger, who runs the J. Rieger and Distillery.
Yes.
Down there in the East Bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually interviewed him last week as well. So the public will be hearing about him as well. Good to hear that there's still plans to open the Whole Foods location up again. You also entered into a collaboration with UMKC and the athletic director there. How is that collaboration going? Or did the COVID kind of put the kibosh on that for now?
So it's kind of frozen things. I mean, the kids aren't there. I don't even think the campus is open at all.
August 1 is what we're shooting for.
Okay.
We'll see.
So I think we'll probably, reboot at that time with the program. We were providing cold pressed juice for the men's and women's basketball team, and now our goal is to expand that to other sports. So we'll see what happens with the return to school.
When you spoke to UMKC Bloch students back in March, you mentioned the importance of a positive attitude and your faith in God. And anyone who knows your path also knows that you truly walk that talk. Is that what you've relied on to keep yourself going?
My faith is what I know will be there. Whether I'm having a rough day, I might feel depressed, or it might feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, battling very wealthy landlords and whatever is going on. At the end of the day, I know that I wouldn't even be sitting here speaking into this mic if it wasn't for God's grace. Simple as that. And so it's what I rely on. It's what I resort to. I try to keep it first above all, because that's really what I want to hear from. You can get a lot of advice from a multitude of places. You can pop on YouTube and get inspirational speakers of every type. But for me, if it's not God's voice and I don't feel that it's His will, I don't want to do it. even if there are dollars attached to it. So yeah, it's what gets me through every day.
Chris, I know you've told this story 100, if not 100,000 times, but it's your story, and I know it's one that's close to your heart, so you don't mind telling it again. But give us the background on the birth of Ruby Jean.
Sure. So Ruby Jean is my late grandmother. She died at 61 from type 2 diabetes. And, my grandmother for me was, so there's my mom and then there's my grandma, like neck and neck. She was that backbone to our family, when we needed it the most. She was a really, really sweet lady originally from Vienna, Oklahoma, then to Muskogee, Oklahoma, and then she landed in Kansas City following behind my great aunt for more opportunity, leaving a small town, and Kansas City was the big city. So she made her way to Kansas City, met my grandfather here, who was from Arkansas, and they made a family together, and my mom was one of those children. And my grandmother always had a way of making us feel rich even when we were poor. So she made a really, really big impact on my life at a very early age. And fast forward, when I was 14 years old, she got sick really, really fast. And, whether it was fast or not, I don't know. I think that some of that doubt that black people have, older black people, especially from the South, as it relates to the healthcare system, kind of came into play. I need to get some rest. I need to drink some water. But it was really rapid, and we found ourselves with her looking like she wouldn't make it. So we transferred from Truman Medical Center to St. Luke's on the Plaza. And once we got to St. Luke's on the Plaza, whatever they tried didn't work. And so she ended up on life support. And once she was on life support and they knew that she wasn't going to make it, they sent for my great grandmother, who we called Mom. And Mom came to town, via Greyhound bus. And when she got to Kansas City, and normally when we see Mom, it's like we're going down once a year in the summer to visit her in this country little Muskogee town. And it was just the best memories you can imagine. As soon as you hit the top of the gravel road, it's like, oh, I smell peach cobbler. It's like it's just something different. Yeah. And so she got to Kansas City, got to the hospital. They picked her up from the bus station, and it was much different. It was very heavy. And so she was half Native, and she's got these really strong cheekbones, and she's looking around at us and hugging us, and you can just feel her pain. And so she went in with my grandmother, Ruby Jean, for that final hour with her daughter, and she said her goodbyes. And she came out back with us, and the life was just gone from her face. And then she looked around at us again. She took this big, massive gasp for air, and she collapsed. She had a massive heart attack and died.
Oh, my goodness.
So then 2 days later, we took Ruby Jean off life support. And, through my 14-year-old eyes, I witnessed two of the people I love the most on the planet die. And life, went on, and I always carried this pain, this grief, this chip on my shoulder. Absolutely. And I said, man, I got to show people who they were. Like, they were amazing women. They did so much with so little. And so I always carried that, and I didn't know how it would manifest itself. I thought, maybe I would make it to the league and build some big statue in front of my
you're talking about NFL.
NFL, yeah. I played football through college. Maybe I'd build this big statue in front of my Ward Parkway mansion, just showing people like, this is my grandma's.
Right.
And God had different plans. And I ended up in corporate America through my travels. Got introduced to fresh juice from a couple of friends of mine in LA, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with how.
That's a great plan B.
Well, I didn't even know it was a plan B. I was doing really good in corporate America, from coming from 39th Street to making over six figures. I was doing better than all three of my siblings combined. Yeah. And so I didn't feel like I was there. I didn't feel like I was where God was like, this is all right, you're just gonna do this and retire. I never felt like that. I always felt like it was a means to an end.
Because you were like a claims adjuster, right?
I was a CAT adjuster. So I worked for Allstate for 2 years and Liberty Mutual for 3. travel the entire country. But what
Catastrophes, right?
catastrophes, hailstorms, hurricanes, fires, everything in between. But what dawned on me is I became a consumer of the juicing industry from everywhere, and I would get menus and I would take pictures, and I just fell in love with it. And I would do the same thing when I got home from work here in Kansas City. And where it hit the road, the rubber hit the road, was I was in Chicago. And if you've ever traveled 75% of the time, it's exhausting. So I'm in Chicago. I had been in 2 different cities on this particular trip. Our claims had dried up in 2 cities, and I was now in my 3rd city in 3 weeks. And I woke up restless in the middle of the night in a Residence Inn, and I couldn't remember where I was at. I literally couldn't remember what city I was in. I had to think, grab my phone, like, oh, you're in Chicago. And that was like,
wake up call.
Yeah, this is not it. This is going to expire. And so right there, I started asking myself and asking God, like, well, what is it? You know what I mean? Like, Chiefs didn't work out. What do you want to do? Like, you're making more money than most people have ever seen. You own 2 properties at this point. I was in my 20s, and I didn't feel complete. And I started thinking, like, what are you passionate about? And at this point, I had started to become like the food police for my family. Like, don't mama, sister, you got to take it easy on this food.
Well, and probably because of your grandmother.
Right. But it started to hit me because I was engulfed in this juicing world and treating my body better. And, they would just look at me like, oh, Chris, yeah, whatever.
There you go again.
Yeah, we don't want to hear it. Give me my chicken. And so I finally, it hit me. It was like God was like, boy, I'm making it plain for you. I was looking at my tattoos, and my grandma's all over my tattoos. I'm like, man, I miss grandma. It's always been something, I got a traveling juicer with me that I took everywhere. I'm like, man, I love juicing. Like, I love health, something to that. And he made it plain for me right there in that room. He was like, it hit me. Open a juice bar, honor your grandmother. And the name didn't hit me right away, but the idea hit me. But I knew I wanted to honor her with the whole venture. And so I popped up like.
Your original name was Smoothie Juice something? what was it?
Yeah, I try not to tell too many people, but yeah, it's the first name was Smooth and Juicy.
Smooth and Juicy.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I was like, this is a hit. Like, it's catchy. We're gonna sell a lot of juices and smoothies with this. But
I'm glad the forces led you to another way.
Yeah, me too. But I rested on it more. And kind of thought about it, and I would hit hurdles and roadblocks. And again, I went back inside and was like, God, well, you gave me this vision. Like, what is it? And I was like, oh, are you gonna honor your grandma? I'll honor her. And so I named it Ruby Jean's Juicery. And that once I had that in my mind, I knew what I needed to do. And so then it was just about finding a location. We were blessed to find our first location. I put every single dollar I had into it. A little tiny 700 square foot building. I hadn't, I don't know if you could ever know how much you need to save, but at some point, once it hit me, I saved every dollar. I had a couple of credit cards. I had good credit at the time, and so I charged up a couple of credit cards a couple of times. Took a small loan from a friend. Took out my 401k. Took the early penalty on it. Yeah. Any dollar I could turn, I pulled it and I put it into this venture, and God blessed it.
Mm-hmm. So they weren't able to, your mom and your grandmother weren't able to see what you've done with Ruby Jean. What would they be saying to you?
So my grandmother and my great-grandmother.
Grandmother and great-grandmother.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. My grandmother, Ruby Jean, she was, they both. So my great-grandmother's name was Mabel. We called her Mom. But they were shy women, very, very humble, meek souls. I think my grandmother probably would be like, why is my face that big on that, but I think they would be proud. I think they would be proud. I think they would be proud of what it's done for our family, because when they pass, our family's connectivity really lessened. We weren't as close as we were before they passed, but now we'll have Thanksgiving from Ruby Jeans, with it closed to the public, and it'll feel like, man, we're with Grandma. So I think they would be proud of that.
No doubt. Yeah, that's a powerful story, Chris. There are other juiceries in Kansas City. What makes Ruby Jeans unique?
It's just the heart in it. It's the heart in it. The why we even do it. It wasn't created to fall in line with this powerful trend of veganism and the health world. It was from anywhere. It was created, with true intention in mind, and that's really, really hard to fake. You can't really fake that. You can't replicate it. You can't. If we create something and then it's done another way, but it stemmed from us, it's gonna be plain that it didn't have that same heart in it. It's just something to be said about authenticity, and essentially God's grace. He's blessed our business, and not to say it's been easy by any means, but His covering has been over this business from day one.
You do a great job of opening up your location to local artists and authors, and of course, on one side it drives customers to your place, but I sense maybe you've got a different purpose with that, allowing others to showcase what they do to Kansas City.
I know how hard it was to get our first location opened. I know how hard it is to keep all of the locations open. I know how much the city supports me. If I can do something that's not going to jeopardize our business, I won't just let anybody do any event. But if it's something that feels in line with who we are, and I can use our platform and our space to be that for them, then I feel duty bound to make sure that happens.
Are there still plans to do a food truck? What you going to do with food truck?
There's plans. It's just like the food truck. So we have it. It's beautiful, but projects just keep jumping in front of it. I had the food truck before Whole Foods came about, and then Whole Foods came about, and it's like, oh well, we gotta focus on that. So the truck is just sitting and waiting for its moment to shine, but it's beautiful, and I thought that would be one of our pivots for the coronavirus, but it didn't. It ended up not making sense to stretch ourselves that thin.
What message do you have for first-time wannabe entrepreneurs, particularly now that COVID-19 has kind of changed the landscape? Is it still something that should be pursued right now, or what's your recommendation?
Entrepreneurship?
Yes.
Yeah. I think if you have it in your heart to be an entrepreneur, you got to do it. But I'm of the mindset that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it should come from the heart. It shouldn't just be, people want this. They're masks are selling all over the place. Let me just make a mask and try and get some quick money. That's a quick path to failure, because business is way too hard. And if you don't start it and it's not birthed from a place of passion and a place of truth and a place of love and authenticity, more times than not, it's probably going to fail. So I think chase passion first instead of the almighty dollar.
So what do you envision the next 3 months looking like for Ruby Jeans, as we appear to be in a second wave here in Kansas City, a little bit earlier maybe than most health officials expected? They probably thought it would be more like a fall, but because of all the opening back up of Kansas City, it seems like it hit.
Man, I don't know. We play it day by day. We just, I make sure I'm reading the articles, and I have the benefit of getting city updates, the health updates behind the scenes. So I kind of know where things are going. But we never really opened back up. We didn't open our dining room back up. We're still carry out only. Sometimes people will wait a little bit, but we've kept it the same way the entire time. So for us, we'll do exactly what we've done. We didn't close one single day during the pandemic in full. And for me, that's important, because if I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing it for the reason that I say I'm doing it, if I close a healthy establishment during a pandemic where they say that the only things you can do are try to wash your hands more, try not to touch your face, but also focus on boosting your immune system, and I know that what we offer boost people's immune systems. If I close during that time, then I'm really not here to do what I said I'm here to do. And that's not to shame any of our competitors that did close. It's to say that we really do this for the people that come in our doors. To say that you don't have to drink pop, you don't have to eat fried food or barbecue every single day of your life. You gotta, at some point, we all have to look at what are we taking in. I don't care who you are. And so if I close my doors when people need me the most, then I'm a phony. So we'll keep it just as we have the entire time. We'll stay true to what we do, and while we do it, we'll remain open, even if it's myself, my cousin, and we've got an amazing lead cook, Natalie, and it was us three. I worked the front, my cousin would make the juice in the middle room, and Natalie would make the food. And each day we would come in with a positive spirit and say, you know what, we're going to get through this. And we have.
It does seem like this is a great opportunity for people to maybe reset their health choices. So, for example, in order to boost your immune system, what products would you be suggesting to them?
I think it's important to get to a good baseline. So if you have been eating barbecue and fried chicken and fried this and yada, 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 then it's probably time for a cleanse. You know, if you think about, our vehicles and the oil, right? What do you get? 3,500 miles before the light comes on and the car is telling you, hey, get me in to get my oil changed or some stuff is going to go bad. Our bodies don't have that light. It's not apparent
until it's too late.
But we really do have that light. We just don't know to listen to our bodies enough. Our eyes show it. Our skin shows it. Our energy shows it. Our moods show it. And so for me, is listen to your body. If your light has went off, get a cleanse first. Start with the cleanse, and then just try and put only healthy foods on top of that cleanse. So cleanse will eradicate any toxins from your body, and then you can kind of start over, if you will, and say, you know what, from here, I'm going to eliminate if I'm doing fried foods, if I'm taking in too much sugar. So you get back to a baseline. And then I would say vitamin C heavy. Ginger is a really big component. We created an immunity lemonade, which is raw honey, filtered water, lemons, elderberry, and ginger. Elderberry is really, really, really good for your immune system as well.
And you sell that in the jugs?
We do. We sell it in our half-gallon jugs.
That's great. Okay, so what day of fast? What's the optimal?
If you ask my opinion,
you're not gonna say 31 days.
No,
okay.
I never. Although I don't. Most, but no, that's not. No, everybody can't just go out and drink juice for a month. But 5 days to me is the sweet spot. We sell mostly 3-day cleanses because it sounds like, oh, I cannot eat for 3 days and drink juice, and financially, that sounds about doable. But 5 days is to me that sweet spot where after 3 days, the hardest portion of a cleanse, your body starts to adapt and say, oh, I know what I need. I know what I want. Whereas when you stop at 3 days, you kind of are stopping right when you got past the hard part. And that's and this is like, it's weird because cleanses really are kind of like business and even life, because we all hit that resistance. We hit something where it's like, how do I get
the wall?
I can't get through this spot. And so with a cleanse, 3 days is about that spot where you punch through that wall. And so I say you got to put at least 2 days on top of that to really see what your body will do.
So what price range would individuals be looking at in order to put a gold star on their health?
So our cleanses are $50 a day.
Okay.
And, people have done it for 14 days. Somebody just ordered a 7-day cleanse this morning. We mostly sell 3 days, but 5 days is mine. Like if you ask me, and I'm not trying to sell you on it, 5 days is a sweet spot.
Now you've done a 31-day juice. Do you start seeing ghosts and seeing things? Because where does the energy come from, and where does that? How do you get past that wall? 31 days seems incredible.
So I don't eat any in December for the last 4 years. I always do December because it's the hardest month to do a cleanse, but it's the month that Jesus was born. It's the last month of the year, and it propels me to a fresh start. But for me, I've done it on a pretty regular frequency, so my body is more adapted to it. but it's still difficult. It's still difficult, and for me, it's such a spiritual, mental battle more than physical. Our bodies are amazing. I mean, they are more amazing than we really know, and until you give them exactly what they need, we'll never realize how amazing they are, and that's from a mental perspective and physical.
Yeah, because there have unfortunately been individuals that have been stranded on islands and at sea, but the body can go an exceptionally long time without food. You need water,
right?
But food seems to be something that the body can handle, or lack thereof. Food.
Right, and when we're forced to do it, and so then when we force ourselves to do it, and we're not saying you're not eating anything, the juice is nourishment. Make no mistake about it. Fresh fruits and vegetables is nourishing to our bodies, and then you're drinking water as well. So your body's getting the nourishment. It's your mind that you're battling, because your mind is telling you, oh, you need your chips, you need your candy bar, you need your chicken, you need something to chew on. Just the idea of chewing, you need that, when really your body is like, oh, thank you, I needed this break. It's like your car. If your car, if you just keep putting bad gas in it and bad oil, not changing the oil, not washing it, not taking care of your car, its lifespan is going to be shortened. Our bodies are the exact same.
So what can people expect when they get to this day 3, day 4? I mean, what happens so that maybe they won't be so shocked and it will be normal when they see it occurring?
So first few days, depending on how you've eaten, your bowels are obviously going to change. Your energy is going to reduce drastically. You're going to feel a little sluggish. If you drink a lot of caffeine, you get and that's my hard part. So I drink coffee quite a bit each day, and
you get the withdrawal and the headaches.
You get headaches, and so your body anything that your body has been reliant on is going to be eradicated. So you'll have this tug of war with your body, and you'll be tired. You'll have bowel movement changes. But then when you get past day 3, get into day 4, day 5, your energy spikes. So your energy goes up, your eyes get brighter, your skin gets clearer. You just feel much, much better. And your body is like, oh, I got it. Once you get past day 5, it's only mental. It's like, oh, if you drive past gates and you smell it, you might have a meltdown. But your body is fine at that point.
Well, you've got me energized in order to try this. So when are you going to introduce your son to juicing?
Oh, he drinks juice already.
No kidding.
Yeah, he drinks juice.
And he's a little guy now.
Yeah, he loves it. He knows Ruby Jeans. He'll see my grandma's face and be like, Ruby Jeans? Yeah. And it's special because I know that when I was his age, I was drinking Kool-Aid, just crap. Yeah. And to be able to change that cycle and say, no, I'm going to introduce you to what's right, I know it's going to have an impact on his life, and I'm excited about it.
And not really a question, but just a FYI for the community. November 11 will forever and always be known in Kansas City as Ruby Jeans Day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that came about because, was that your opening anniversary?
We opened our Truce location. It'll be 3 years ago this November 11th coming up. And they gave us the proclamation and I think that was Scott Taylor that did that for us, and that's special for us.
Well, Chris, we're going to leave it there. The community adores your story. You have a really compelling story. You had mentioned before the community support for you, and when you go online and you see all the information about Ruby Jeans and Chris Goode, the person, I mean, you are certainly a Kansas City champion, and people certainly are supportive of you.
Thank you.
As is this show, and I want to thank you for all that you've done for Kansas City and will continue to do.
Yes, sir.
And wish you success in the future, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show. You've always been very accommodating.
Yes, sir.
No matter how many times I blow up your text.
It's all good.
But you've got a great story to tell, and people need to hear it. So we want to tell it every so often.
Thank you.
All right.
Journey to Leadership is supported by the UMKC Bloch School of Management. We would like to thank Bloch School Dean Brian Klaus, Associate Dean Brian Anderson, Program Chair Jeff Hornsby, Producer Editor Damon Smith, and KC Street Notes. The comments and opinions expressed on the show, either by the guest or host, are not intended to reflect those of UMKC, the Bloch School, the University of Missouri System, or any of its officials. Until next time, Enjoy your journey.